Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta.
And now Chapter 2, Sanatana Gosvami.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta.
Vande Nantadbhutaishvaryam Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhum Nicho Piyat Prasadat Syad Bhakti Shastra Pravartaka, which means, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even a person in the lowest form of life can find direction in transcendental devotional service to the Lord. After Lord Chaitanya accepted the renounced order of life, or sannyas, he traveled all over India. During this period, he went to Malda, a district in Bengal. In that area, there was a village named Ramakeli, where two government ministers of the Nawab Hussain Shah's regime lived. These two ministers were named Dabir Khas and Sakra Malik, and they were later to be renamed Sanatana Gosvami and Rupa Gosvami. Being inspired by Lord Chaitanya, they decided to retire from government service and join his Sankirtan movement. Upon making this decision, the two brothers at once took steps to leave their material engagements, and they appointed two learned Brahmins to perform certain Vedic religious rituals that would enable them to achieve complete freedom for the devotional service of Krishna. These preliminary activities are known as Purascharya. These ritualistic functions demand that 3 times a day one worships and offers respects to his forefathers, offers oblations to a fire, and respectfully offers food to a learned Brahmin. 5 items: time, worship, offering of respect, offering of oblation into the fire, and offering of food to a Brahmin comprise Purascharya. This and other rituals are mentioned in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the authoritative book of directions. After performing these religious rituals, the younger brother, Sakra Malik, or Rupa Gosvami, returned home with an immense amount of money which he had acquired during his government service. Indeed, the silver and gold coins he brought back filled a large boat. After arriving home, he divided the accumulated wealth first in twain and distributed one part to the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Thus, for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he distributed 50% of his accumulated wealth to persons engaged in the Supreme Lord's transcendental loving service. Brahmins are meant to understand the absolute truth, and once they understand the truth and actually engage in the loving service of the Lord, they can be called Vaishnavas. Both Brahmins and Vaishnavas are supposed to be fully engaged in transcendental service, and Rupa Gosvami, considering their important transcendental position, gave them 50% of his wealth. The remaining 50% was again divided in twain. He distributed one part to his relatives and dependent family members, and the other he kept for personal emergencies. Such distribution of personal wealth is very instructive for all who desire to be elevated in spiritual knowledge. Generally, a person bequeaths all his accumulated wealth to his family members and then retires from family activities in order to make progress in spiritual knowledge. Here, however, we find the behavior of Rupa Gosvami to be exemplary. He gave 50% of his wealth for spiritual purposes. This should serve as an example for everyone. The 25% of his accumulated wealth, which he kept for personal emergencies, was deposited with a good business firm, since in those days there were no banks. 10,000 coins were deposited for expenditures incurred by his elder brother, Sanatana Gosvami. At this time, Rupa Gosvami received information that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was preparing to proceed to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri. Rupa Gosvami sent 2 messengers to get actual information of the Lord's itinerary, and he made his own plans to go to Mathura to meet the Lord. It appears that Rupa Gosvami got permission to join Lord Chaitanya, but Sanatana Gosvami did not. Therefore, Sanatana Gosvami entrusted the responsibilities of his government service to his immediate assistants, and he remained home to study Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, he even engaged some 10 or 20 learned Brahmins and began an intensive study of Srimad Bhagavatam in their company. While he was thus engaged, he submitted sick leave reports to his employer, the Nawab. However, the ruler was so anxious for Sanatana Gosvami's advice in government matters that he suddenly appeared at his house. When the Nawab entered the house, where Sanatana Gosvami and the Brahmins were assembled, they all stood up to receive him respectfully, and they offered him a place to sit. "You have submitted sick reports," the Nawab told Sanatana Gosvami, "but I sent my physician to see you, and he reported that you have no illness at all. Since I did not know why you were submitting sick reports and not attending to your service, I have personally come to see you. Frankly, I am much perturbed by your behavior. As you know, I completely depend on you and your responsible work in government. I was free to act in other matters because I was depending on you. But if you do not join me, your past devotion will be spoiled. Now, what is your intention? Please tell me." On hearing this, Sanatana Gosvami replied that he was unable to continue work and that it would be very kind of the Nawab to appoint someone else to execute the work that was entrusted to him. Upon hearing this, the Nawab became very angry and said, "Your elder brother lives like a hunter, and if you also retire from the administration, everything will be finished." It was said that the Nawab used to treat Sanatana Gosvami like a younger brother. Since the Nawab was principally engaged in conquering different parts of the country and also in hunting, he depended largely on Sanatana Gosvami for government administration. Thus he pleaded with him, "If you also retire from government service, how will the administration carry on?" "You are the governor of Goda," Sanatana Gosvami replied very gravely, "and you punish different kinds of criminals in different ways. So you are at liberty to punish anyone according to his activity." By this reply, Sanatana Gosvami was indicating that since the governor was engaged in hunting animals and in killing men to expand his kingdom, let both of them suffer according to the acts they were performing. The Nawab was intelligent, and he understood Sanatana Gosvami's purpose. He left the house in an angry mood, and shortly afterward he went off to conquer Orissa. He ordered the arrest of Sanatana Gosvami and commanded that he be held until he returned. Upon learning that his elder brother had been arrested by the Nawab, Rupa Gosvami sent information that 10,000 coins were being held in the custody of a grocer in Goda or Bengal, and that this money could be used as ransom for his brother. Sanatana also offered 5,000 coins to the keeper of the jail in which he was being held in custody. He advised the jailkeeper to gladly accept the 5,000 coins from him and let him go, because by accepting the money, he would not only be materially benefited, but would also be acting very righteously by freeing Sanatana for spiritual purposes. "Of course I can let you go," the jailkeeper replied, "for you have done many services for me, and you are in government service. However, I'm afraid of the Nawab. What will he do when he hears that you are free? I'll have to explain everything to him. How can I accept such a proposal?" Sanatana then invented a story which the jailkeeper might submit to the Nawab as to how he had escaped, and he raised his offer to 10,000 coins. Greedy to get the money, the jailkeeper agreed to the proposition and let him go. In the meantime, Rupa Gosvami, with his younger brother Sri Vallabha, had started for Vrindavan to meet Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sanatana then proceeded to go see the Lord. He did not travel on the open road, but went through the jungles until he arrived at a place in Bihar called Patada. There he rested in a hotel, but the hotel keeper was informed by an astrologer employed there that Sanatana Gosvami had some gold coins with him. The hotel keeper, desiring to get the money, spoke to Sanatana with seeming respect. "Just take your rest tonight," he told him, "and in the morning I shall arrange for you to get out of this jungle trap." However, Sanatana was suspicious of his behavior, and he inquired from his servant Ishan whether he had money, and Ishan told him that he had 7 gold coins. Sanatana did not like the idea of the servant carrying such money. He became angry with him and said, "Why do you carry this death knell on the road?" Sanatana at once took the gold coins and offered them to the hotel keeper. He then requested that the hotel keeper help him through the jungle. He informed him that he was on a special journey for the government, and that since he could not travel on the open road, it would be very kind if the hotel keeper would help him through the jungles and over the mountains. "I understood that you had 8 coins with you, and I was thinking of killing you to take them," the hotel keeper confessed. "But I can understand that you are such a good man that you don't have to offer me the money." "If you don't accept these coins, then someone else will take them from me," Sanatana replied. "Someone will kill me for them, so it is better that you take them. I offer them to you." The hotel keeper then gave him all assistance, and that very night he helped him get past the hills. When Sanatana emerged from the hills, he requested that his servant go home with the 1 coin that he still had with him, for Sanatana decided that he would go on alone. After the departure of his servant, Sanatana felt completely free. With torn clothing and a water pot in hand, he began to proceed toward Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. On the way, he met his rich brother-in-law, who was also in the government service, and who offered him an excellent blanket, which Sanatana accepted at his special request. Then he parted from him and went on alone to see Caitanya Mahaprabhu at Benares. When he reached Benares, he understood that the Lord was there, and he became overjoyed. He was informed by the people that the Lord was staying at the house of Chandrasekhara Acharya, and Sanatana went there. Although Caitanya Mahaprabhu was inside the house, he could understand that Sanatana had arrived at the door, and he asked Chandrasekhara to call the man who was sitting there. "He is a Vaisnava, a great devotee of the Lord," Caitanya Mahaprabhu said. Chandrasekhara came out to see the man, but he saw no Vaishnava at the door. He saw only a man who appeared to be a mendicant. The Lord then asked to see the mendicant, And when Sanatana entered the courtyard, Lord Chaitanya hurriedly came to see and embrace him. When the Lord embraced him, Sanatana became overwhelmed with spiritual ecstasy, and he said, "My dear Lord, please do not touch me." But both of them embraced each other and began to cry. Seeing Sanatana and Lord Chaitanya acting thus, Chandrasekhara was struck with wonder. At length, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Sanatana to sit down with him on a bench. He was touching the body of Sanatana with his hand, and Sanatana asked him again, "My dear Lord, please do not touch me." "I am touching you just for my purification," the Lord replied, "for you are a great devotee. By your devotional service, you can deliver the whole universe and enable everyone to go back to Godhead." The Lord proceeded to quote a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam to the effect that a person who is a devotee of Lord Krishna and is 100% engaged in devotional service is far better than a Brahmin who is versed in all the Vedic literatures but who does not engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Because he is carrying the Supreme Lord within his heart, the devotee can purify every place and everything. In the Vedic literatures, it is also stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not recognize a person who is very learned in all the divisions of the Vedas, but rather he likes a person who is a devotee, even though he may be born in a low family. If one offers charity to a Brahmin who is not a devotee, the Lord does not accept. But if something is offered to a devotee, the Lord accepts. In other words, whatever a person wishes to offer the Lord may be given to his devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also quoted Srimad Bhagavatam to the effect that if a Brahmin is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, then he is lower than the lowest of the low, even though he may be qualified with the 12 Brahminical qualities and born in a high family. A devotee, although born in a Chandala or dog-eater family, can purify his whole family for 100 generations, past and future, by devotional service, whereas a proud Brahmin cannot even purify himself. It is said in the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, chapter 13, verse 2, "Akshno palam tvadrasha darshanam hi, tano palam tvadrasha gatra sangha, jiva palam tvadrasha kirtanam hi, sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke," which means, quote, "O devotee of the Lord, to see you is the perfection of the eyes, to touch your body is the perfection of bodily activities, and to glorify your qualities is the perfection of the tongue, for it is very rare to find a pure devotee like you." Unquote. The Lord then told Sanatana that Krishna is very merciful and is the deliverer of fallen souls. "He has saved you from Maharorava," the Lord said. This Maharorava, or hell, is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as a place meant for persons who are engaged in killing animals, for it is stated there that butchers or animal eaters go to that hell. "I do not know the mercy of Krishna," Sanatana replied, "but I can understand that your mercy upon me is causeless. You have delivered me from the entanglement of material life." Then the Lord inquired, "How did you get free from your custody? I understand that you were arrested." Sanatana then narrated the whole story of his release. "I have seen your 2 brothers," the Lord then informed him, "and I have advised them to proceed toward Vrindavan." Lord Chaitanya then introduced Chandrasekhara and Tapan Mishra to Sanatana, and Tapan Mishra pleasantly invited Sanatana to dine with him. The Lord requested Chandrasekhara to take Sanatan to a barber and make him gentle, for Sanatan had grown a long beard which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like. He not only asked Chandrasekhara to provide Sanatan with a bath and a clean shave, but with a change of clothes as well. After bathing, Chandrasekhara gave him some good cloth. When Lord Chaitanya was informed that Sanatan did not accept new garments, but later accepted only some used garments from Tapana Mishra, he was very glad. The Lord went to Tapana Mishra's house for lunch and asked him to keep food for Sanatan. Tapana Mishra did not offer Sanatan food immediately, however, but after the Lord finished his eating, there were some remnants of his foodstuff, and that was offered to Sanatan while the Lord took his rest. After resting, Lord Chaitanya introduced one Maharashtriya Brahmin, a devotee of his, to Sanatan, and that Maharashtriya Brahmin invited Sanatan to accept lunch daily at his place, as long as he remained in Benares. "As long as I remain in Benares, I will beg from door to door," Sanatan said. "But the Lord will be so good as to accept this invitation for daily lunch at your house." Lord Chaitanya was very much pleased by this behavior of Sanatan, but he noticed the valuable blanket that was given to him by his brother-in-law while en route to Benares. Although Lord Chaitanya was overlooking the blanket, Sanatan understood that he did not approve of such a valuable garment on his body, and therefore Sanatan decided to get rid of it. He immediately went to the bank of the Ganges, and there he saw a mendicant washing an old quilt. When Sanatan asked him to trade the old quilt for the valuable blanket, the poor mendicant thought that Sanatan was joking with him. "How is this?" the mendicant upbraided him. "You appear to be a very nice gentleman, but you are mocking me in this unmannerly way." "I am not joking with you," Sanatan informed him. "I am very serious. Will you kindly exchange that torn quilt for this blanket?" Finally, the mendicant exchanged his torn quilt for the blanket, and Sanatan returned to the Lord. "Where is your valuable blanket?" the Lord immediately inquired. Sanatan informed him about the exchange, and the Lord loved him for this and thanked him. "You are intelligent enough, and you have now exhausted all your attraction for material wealth." In other words, the Lord accepts a person for devotional service only when he is completely free from all materialistic possessions. The Lord then told Sanatan, "It would not look good for you to be a mendicant and beg from door to door with such a valuable blanket on your body. It is contradictory, and people would look on it with abhorrence." "Whatever I am doing to become free from material attachment is all your mercy," Sanatan replied. The Lord was very much pleased with him, and both of them discussed spiritual advancement. Previous to this meeting between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatan Gosvami, the Lord met a householder devotee named Ramananda Rai. At that meeting, which is discussed in a later chapter, Lord Chaitanya asked Ramananda Rai questions, and Ramananda replied as if he were the teacher of the Lord. However, in this case, Sanatan put questions to the Lord, and the Lord answered them himself. The instructions and teachings of Lord Chaitanya are very important for people in general. He teaches the process of devotional service, which is the constitutional occupation of every living entity, for it is every man's duty to advance in spiritual science. Many subjects were thoroughly discussed in the talks between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatan Gosvami. Due to the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Sanatan was able to put important questions before him, and these questions were replied to properly. By the meeting of Sanatan and Lord Chaitanya, we learned that in order to understand spiritual subject matters, one must approach a spiritual master like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and make submissive inquiries. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad-gita, chapter 4, verse 34, that one should approach a man of authority and learn the science of spiritual life from him.